everybody. Welcome back to Two Cyber Chicks. Although today I am sad to say it is just going to be one cyber chick because Erica unfortunately is unable to join us, but I am still here. So I will have to cover down for her. I know that she is so sad that she has to miss today's episode because, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today has a unique journey in how he got into cybersecurity. It spans from the heart of the elementary classroom to cybersecurity, and we're going to talk about how that transition took place. I can tell you that he was a passionate educator for over a decade. You may know him as a hip hop dancer, but he goes by Joe Hudson. He's transitioned from basically shaping young minds and to actually guiding professionals in the ever evolving and wonderful landscape of cyber threats and defense. So we're thrilled to have him here today, or I'm thrilled since Erica's not here. I will tell you that I love Joe. Like, he has just such an amazing heart. He really seeks out to help people. He has this kind of unwavering mindset of just really wanting to help people succeed and break into the industry. And where he's working at today, it's known as TCM Security. He's the director of growth over there, but he's also, on top of all of that, he manages and being a proud dad and also a husband. So he has a mission, and we're going to be talking about that, but his mission is very, very clear. It's to build a more secure world for future generations with a unified approach to cybersecurity. So I'm so excited to dive in deep with Joe today, a man that I will say with a heart that is expansive as his skill set. So without further ado, let's bring Joe on the show. That one always gets me. What's up, Joe? It's so happy to have you back again, always.
I'm going to have to absolutely get you to write my eulogy. That was solid, minus the backup, hip-hop dancing.
I had to throw that in there.
Keeping that theme going along. I have the redneck tap dance. That's what I grew up being able to do in my living room, and that's about as far as it goes. But no, thanks for having me. Any chance I get to just catch up with you is great, whether it's on camera or not. So very happy to be here.
We're going to be meeting soon, though, Wild West Hacking Fest.
So there, I will say you probably will get a chance to see me in some action outside of the world that you know me. I definitely have a little idea for something I want to do up there. Cannot wait to go to that event. Super stoked.
Oh, I can't wait. All right. So we've got a ton to talk about today. So we'll jump right in. One of the first questions I kind of want to talk to you about, Joe, is your transition from teaching to cybersecurity, which that's a big pivot. So you had a remarkable journey being a passionate elementary school teacher to diving basically headfirst into cybersecurity. And I'm really curious, what really sparked your interest to go into cybersecurity? Was that your intention all along? Was it kind of an organic thing? Just share a little bit about how you went from teaching background to now in the cyber realm.
Yeah, definitely not intentional. I would have probably intentionally not gone towards cybersecurity based on what I knew/didn't know back in the day. I've talked about this many times and very reflectively because I still think I'm learning about who was I back then. Like being able to think back to yourself 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and where you were in moments and how would you deal with those moments today versus when you did last, back then. And I kind of wonder, would I have made the same decisions today that I made back then that ultimately took me here? But no, my wife had a kid and we were broke. So there was really no choice. I've said it really hit me like a bolt of lightning where I realized I was never going to make money for the rest of my life, guaranteed if I stayed in the classroom. And, some things in life, I think you fall in love with enough to stick around longer than you probably should. Even in recruiting, I did recruiting for 8 years after teaching and, 6+ of that was in cyber. And I probably was mentally and emotionally completely spent about 4 years in. I would say the last 2 years, I really spent most of my time just talking with people that needed the help. I probably made the least amount of money and felt the most fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And also because of the pandemic and all the different issues that people were going through, I think folks that were willing to give time were in the highest demand ever. and there were just less folks out there being willing to do it because they were going through their own things. No, cybersecurity has been such a blessing, not because of the field itself. It's the people, and it's the fact that I know I'm in an industry that actually matters to everyone. Like I was on a phone call this morning with these guys at Saudi Arabia, and we were talking about how great is it that this is just such a universal language that connects us in the way it does. But from the classroom to cybersecurity has been an unplanned journey, and one that I'm very, very blessed and lucky to feel I get to experience every day. And there's been no days in cyber that are nearly as bad as the worst days in the classroom where kids are standing on the desk and screaming and literally running out of the building. And I was actually doing classroom management, but you get unpredictable kids. So there's nothing as stressful as that.
No, I don't think I've ever seen anybody, throw a temper tantrum per se. Actually, you probably see some people throw temper tantrums in cybersecurity, but it's a different environment. And like you said, it's like everybody, like you may not feel this way, but everybody wants the same thing in cybersecurity. We want to feel secure. We want to protect our most secure, high value assets. Everybody's after the same mission. We may go after it differently, but ultimately we want to have good national security. We want to protect the things that matter the most to us within this space.
Absolutely. I'm regularly looking up what are things that the United States is currently better at than other countries, whether it's in the security space, AI, it's like the most generic searches. But you find some really interesting information about what the U.S. is emphasizing versus where the other world is, the rest of the world is playing catch up, or vice versa. And there's just always, no matter what, there's good guys and bad guys. There's two teams, pretty much.
100%. So you went from teaching elementary school, then your first job was a tech recruiter. Okay. And then from there, we went from tech recruiter to now where you're at today, which is you're the director of growth, which is an amazing organization. We'll talk a little bit about the organization you work for. But you mentioned on your LinkedIn, you talk about being part of this organization before it even became a company. Like you already kind of knew about the organization. Can you shed a little light on TCM's journey and what makes that mission really resonate deeply with you, and why you're so excited to be the director of growth with the company?
Great way to put it. Resonates deeply with me. That's a spot on way of describing how I feel about it, because I got lucky enough to take a chance on a person, Heath Adams, that I got a great opportunity to get to know him early from afar. He was living in New Mexico. I'm living in Charlotte. We're talking on the phone. I don't really know what I'm doing looking for people in security. He's trying to break into security as a full-time profession. And he had obtained the OSCP certification, which really was a requirement for the job that I was hiring for. And luckily, the boss that I was working with, the manager, his name is Brandon Martin. And you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody with a bigger heart and more open mind, the type of person that really gives time even if you're not the right fit. He'll spend 45 minutes in an interview with you, and the last 30, after he's told you you're not a fit, he's going to coach you. And so I felt very comfortable taking a shot. And I remember writing him. I remember doctoring up Heath's resume in a very ethical way, but just putting some good English major words in there. And, got him an interview. And Heath was just such a perceptive person, and the type of person that you can just tell is going to get it done. He's going to get a job. And I remember talking to Brandon and saying, not what you asked me for, but you're catching this guy on the way up. You are absolutely getting this guy as he is coming into his own, and he needs a shot, and he's willing to move across the country. And we built a genuine friendship. I think that he didn't have a lot of people out here. I got to hang out with him a few times. We went out to dinner one night, and he said, I'm thinking about teaching. He's been working on a course at this point. It was a Udemy course, Practical Ethical Hacker is what he ended up going with. And I think he offered it for free. And this thing blew up. And it is still sort of a baseline for so many people trying to get into the hacker world and understand, do I even want to partake in this world? Do I have what it takes? It's been such an amazing teaching tool. And that naturally spawned opportunities for him as he started doing hilarious YouTube videos, but incredibly educational. And really, like when you watch these videos, even as someone who is not wanting to be a hacker, I used to watch all his videos and go, this is the normal person. this is what people are really like. Because if you're on the outside of cybersecurity, like I was for so many years, you formulate this idea of what cybersecurity people are like in your mind. And then you get to talk to people like Heath and you're like, yes and no. I mean, yes, there's parts of it. Definitely wants to nerd out and do all sorts of things on the keyboard all day, right? But very much a warm personality that you feel like, hey, I just want to help you. So here's some content. And so I had a chance to really watch him invest in himself. I think he probably spent over 100 hours creating that first course. So I was very proud of him. But even at that point, I was not going to just start.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to start being like, hey, everybody go check out TCM,
Right.
go do the trainings. Like, I talked to a ton of people that went through it without telling them anything about my backstory with him or anything, and just asking, collecting information. And that way, when people asked me, hey, do you have any good resources that I should check out? I felt confident sharing that. So it's been really great to watch him build this over the years. And the people that he's brought onto the team are just the biggest hearts in the world. Just amazing quality people. I'm astonished to work with them every day. So especially remotely, that's tough to do, to actually have a good culture when everybody's just completely through a screen. This is my first time in my life I've ever not been around the people that I'm working with. So very proud of him and the work he's put in, and he's not even close to finished.
Wow, that's so impressive. What a full circle story. And I didn't know that you guys had connected in that manner, and then you helped him break into the industry, and then full circle all the way around. He's built this like amazing company, and now you're working as his director of growth. I mean, that also is a great like example of, you never want to burn bridges, but you never know. Like, he was just starting out in his career. You never know who you're helping along the journey. And it's like, you would have never guessed at that time when you were helping him how this would have turned out, and where he would, and think what would have happened had you not helped him. I mean, he obviously would have found his way, but it could have been a completely different narrative for him.
Oh, he could have ended up in a job where maybe he didn't get inspired to do the videos or feel like he had the autonomy to create it. Who knows? I totally agree. I think timing is everything. If I hadn't contacted him, would I be working at TCM Security right now? Probably not. Yeah. And I don't think I've gotten any job period by applying. It's been through people who I've known, who've looked out for me and referred me or said, hey, I think this would be great for you. Even my second teaching job, I didn't even apply. I think my backup administrative assistant moved and was like, you got to hire this guy. And I went up to DC area and I walked in shorts and a t-shirt. I was moving, and she said, you start in a week and a half. And I was like, great. And then my recruiting job that I got, my first one, my friend helped me out and made an introduction to my first boss. I had no business getting that job, but luckily it's just people looked out for me. And that is the perfect example of how networking and keeping your network strong and alive and being good to your network. You might do 10 things in a row for other people before you get one back, but that's okay too. I mean, it could, because that one thing that comes back could be at the perfect timing for when you really need it in life.
Agree. God, such great information and knowledge right there. Oof, I love it. Love it. All right. So we're going to talk about some skills and roles that you've had in your life. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about still like your range of being as a teacher, and you had that certain set of skill set, and then you went from that into technical recruiting, which takes a different set of skill set, but you're still like very much a people person within, I feel like, both of these roles, to now where you're at as the director of growth. What have you, two-part question, what has been the most challenging of these skills for you to be able to kind of grow and adapt? And have you noticed that through your growth, you've taken some of these, maybe one or two of these skills with you throughout each of these jobs?
Yeah, great question. Thought about that a ton the last week and a half. I went out to a conference in Los Angeles for a week, and I did it by myself. Never done a conference before. Kind of freaked myself out, honestly.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife, and I was like, I don't recognize this anxiety. This is a weird anxiety. Yeah. First of all, I don't really like Los Angeles, but to be in there by myself in this massive convention center and host a conference in a room full of non-cyber people, I was not feeling well equipped. And then the booth came, and they wanted like $8,000 to get all this furniture. to rent it for 2 days, which was the cost of my first year of college. No thanks. And I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do with this booth? And the backdrop hadn't come yet. They mailed it from New Mexico to LA, and somehow I went to Kentucky. But I went around LA and realized I want to set this up like a classroom, because this embodies what I feel TCM is all about, which is teaching and a welcoming environment where you can feel like I'm here to learn. And obviously it represents my background. And I went to a homeless shelter. I was climbing literally in like a pitch black closet with 20 student desks to find a couple student desks, and bought like a teacher desk, and then moved it all in there. But the thing was, I was reflecting a lot about like, how has that chapter of my career got me here to where I am. And the last day I was presenting to an audience, and I was calling people out, in the crowd. Oh, cool. You found a picture. That's awesome.
Yeah. So anybody's listening to this, if you go to YouTube, you'll see the picture. But yeah, he has it actually on his LinkedIn profile from a week ago, and you can actually see what he's talking about. But yeah, it's like the old school chairs. I saw this post. I was like, I literally saw it. I didn't know you put this together. I was like, I looked at it. I was like, that was a brilliant setup, because this is so unconventional in a regular, the booths. This was great. This is brilliant.
I appreciate it. I think it went across really well. It was kind of funny and awkward at times when people would walk up and say, "Can I take a picture?" And I'd be like, without me in it, I kind of felt like a zoo animal at times. Because everybody else around, they had all the TV screens and monitors. And since I was there alone, what I wanted was for people to kind of walk by and just, because I was going to be walking around. I want to network with people. But the presentation I was giving the last day, I was calling on people by name in the crowd. And then if they were getting up and leaving or whatever at the end, I was like, "Hey, see you later, such and such." And somebody came up to me at the end and said, "How do you know all these people?" And I was like, "Well, I met them, this week." And it was like 20-something people. I think I'd said their name. And he said, "How do you remember everybody's name?" And I said, "Teaching." When I was teaching, I used to learn the students' names like before I even met them. They'd walk up and I'd say, "Hey, Amrat," or whatever. And, "How do you know my name?" I'm like, "It's my job, man. I got to learn this stuff." But I think teaching prepared me to be ready for all kinds of personalities, and to be ready to go in without any expectations of this conversation is going to go X, Y, Z way. I've gotten on chats since I got here where the person on the other end of the line literally just couldn't come up with words to talk about. And I'm scrapping in the background to see if they have Legos or things that I can just create some small talk with. And you start to pull out, a lot of good personal touches with people after that. They start to share more about themselves. And I think that's the best thing about teaching that helped me get into recruiting was I taught a lot of kids that had a lot of problems, mental, emotional, family, everything. And that enables you to appreciate an individual's current moment at the moment you're talking to them. You don't know if they got in a fight with their wife 2 minutes before they got on the call with you. You don't know if they're dealing with kids having issues, or you just don't know. And so to get on there and have a business call and try to sell a deal without taking that into account, I think you really miss out on an opportunity to not just capitalize on a good call, but build a rapport with someone that they're actually going to trust you. And that's tough to do. And I think that's been the best skill I've been able to obtain in my entire life, was just getting to know individuals for who they are and allowing them to be, and being patient to allow them to share that with me when they're okay with it. And then, of course, remembering their names. That's helpful.
That's huge. Oh, my God. That's such a great skill to have, to just remember people's names. And I don't like when people say I'm just not good at remembering people's names. I think it's a cop-out, because I'm not good at remembering people's names, but I've trained myself to become good at it. I think anybody can be good at it, because I used to say I'm not good at people's names. I can remember people's faces. But what I do now is I try to say the name back like 3 or 4 times, when we're standing there. First time you meet them, you say their name in return, and then before they walk away, or maybe one more time, so you have it built in. But how I have created the hack is I either try to connect their name to somebody I already know in my circle, like Joe. I'll be like, "Do I know another Joe?" And I do. And he's a special operator in the Air Force. And so I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I already know a Joe. So I already correlate it back, and now I can remember your name." Or if it's like a super unique name, like Sultana is one of my new employees. I'm like, if I write it down or I ask them to spell it, I can usually, then I remember, oh, Sultana. Okay. And then, so it's like, you just have to go that one little bit extra. But when people are like, oh, Bob, da, 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 and they move on, of course, you're not going to remember their name. I feel like you need to take just a moment, a second to just let it register. And then you can get so much better at remembering people's names. And it goes immensely far.
Good tips. I mean, honestly, it's already nerve-wracking enough when you go and you meet someone and you say your name and you think, don't give a weak handshake. Don't do the four finger handshake, and don't be that guy. So like, just give a really strong handshake, and then you realize I totally didn't listen to your name.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a funny
hard.
scenario.
That's why it's okay though at that moment when I do that, because I know exactly what you're talking about. That is the perfect time to ask for their name again without them being like, oh, you forgot my name. Be like, what was it again? What was your name again? Because then people are like, oh yeah, I'm so and so. Because then all the nerves have kind of calmed down. You've gone through the circle of shaking 6 people's hands. But don't be afraid to ask for somebody's name again.
Yeah, I'll also use other people to, if you forget, like my wife and I have a code. Hey, babe, if I walk up to someone and I say, this is my wife, Rachel, that's your cue to introduce yourself and get them to say their name back, because it's really awkward at church or something when, someone's like, hey, what's up? And you're like, I actually totally don't remember your name.
Oh, that's such a great point. I've done that with somebody next to me. I'm like, hey, I don't know this person's name. So when we walk up, I need you to introduce right away to get their name. And that's such a great hack. It's brilliant. Yeah, it works. All right. So pivoting again, we're going to talk about something that you're really passionate about and something that you've kind of talked about, haven't kicked off yet, but hopefully in the future. And you're calling it right now CyberRecruiterCon. It's one of your concepts that you've created. Can you tell us a little bit more about this idea for creating one of these first ever CyberRecruiterCons? Why did you start it? What are your hopes to achieve within having this con?
Yeah, well, that idea was probably created around 3:45 in the morning, the night that I also had the sort of birth of ideas of wanting to explore joining TCM. Heath had said, basically an invitation to join, and I stayed up till like 5:30 in the morning that night. I could not turn my brain off. I had, 15,000 words I wrote down of ideas. The CyberRecruiterCon was, that's something I would love to see come to fruition, whether or not my name's on it or not. I don't see the cybersecurity field going anywhere, and I don't see the issues in hiring going anywhere. And the problem with that I found over the years was this sort of lack of interest in the different recruiters at different companies wanting to work together. I extended at least 25 to 30 invitations to say, I have no hidden agenda here. I'm literally trying to get to know you so that I can give you free candidates when I see you post jobs. I just want to be aware of what you're doing. What is the skill set that you typically tend to look for? Because the types of people that I was getting either referred to me or reaching out to me, or even the folks I was talking to in my own searches, they expanded and covered so much ground that was well outside of my bubble of hiring. And there's no chance that every recruiter is going to be able to work every job and or own the candidate's rights to placing them. It just doesn't work like that. And one of my favorite movies of all time is the OG Miracle of 34th Street. I can't wait for Christmas. I'm Mr. Christmas. I've got a little Christmas tree like literally right over there in my office at all times. But there's a great sort of theme in there, and Santa, he's got this kid on the lap, and the mom's like, Macy's ain't got it. He's like, oh, I wouldn't have told your kid that you could get this service if I didn't know where. Here, look at Gimbals. He refers them to Gimbals. They go to Gimbals, and then she's like, I can't believe this is a great service. And then Gimbals is like, well, we can do that too. And so we're going to know everything Macy's is doing. If I have someone that wants to go do big tech, I want to know the recruiters that I can work with, that I can refer to them. And that goes for government, that goes for autonomous vehicles, it goes for banking, everything. I want to know the people that have the access to those jobs. The whole point of the CyberRecruiterCon, that was just sort of the base, was to get a bunch of the recruiters together so that you can, obviously network, get familiar with who else is out there. Organizations have a chance to sort of present who they are. You're inviting all of the cyber recruiters and or want to be cyber recruiters, IT recruiters that are going to be working these types of jobs. It creates a network to where if everybody's part of that network, and you could say, stamp it, we are part of the official whatever cyber recruiting network. That way, a candidate knows that if they are working with someone from that network, they now have access to multiple other companies, and everybody wins. Because if I refer that person to another company and they get the job, yeah, I'm going to get a small placement and vice versa. Even if we don't get deals out of that, the candidate's still winning. You're giving a great experience. You're able to refer them to someone that can better help them, which also probably gets their communication off your back if you can't help them. And they're like, hey, Joe, you got any updates for me? And I'm like, I am literally not going to get a job for you. That's not going to come. So the knowledge of it, but you also invite some practitioners that can come and present and be able to talk about, hey, here's the top 3 hiring spurts that we think we're going to see this year. It's going to be AppSec, it's going to be CloudSec, whatever the generic stuff you want to throw out there. But then recruiters have an opportunity to say, I know I'm going to be working in 10 of these jobs. I'm going to that breakout session, and the presentation is not teaching you the super technical intricacies of those skill sets. It's, hey, here's the recruiter version of what you need to be able to look for. Here's what's important. And then after you leave that session, you also get sort of like a breakout tip sheet, with questions, with resources that you can go find, even links to videos. It can be mailed to you digitally. And then, of course, you have social hours. You can have all kinds of fun things. Conferences, I have no experience throwing a conference. It's not something that I would have any idea how to put together, but I do know a lot of people. And I think you're also going to get a chance to have hiring managers that could come there that are looking for trusted partners that they can work with. Because the biggest issue I've always had, and this has never changed, hiring managers are not asking candidates, how has your experience been working with that recruiter that we decided we're going to pay $30,000 to, but we didn't even have a 30-minute phone call with them to talk about the job. And the experience could be atrocious. You're paying these people $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to go out into the market, talk about your name, talk about you, talk about your company, and then you're not even vetting the candidates on the experience or the quality of that interaction. And are they even telling the people who we really are?
Yeah. Wow.
It blows my mind. And so this is an opportunity to invite them in to make some real rapport and real connections. It's a big idea that I don't know if I'm the guy to put it together, but boy, would I love to see a more unified approach to cyber recruiting, because it is not connected. It's not unified. There's tons of turnover. Everybody's looking out for themselves. And really, honestly, there's been so many bridges burned that most of the population is doubting and not trusting cybersecurity recruiters. So It's just frustrating.
Yeah. And I'm not a recruiter, but from my experience, it just seems kind of cutthroat too. And I don't know why. Like, you get other recruiters don't want to work with other recruiters, or they want to take your talent, or they don't want to share their talent, even though you may have a job for that individual. They want to hold on to them. That's from my experience and my lens. So it's just like it doesn't make sense to me that this is happening. But what's interesting is I don't think I've ever heard of a con that's specifically for even technology recruiters as a whole. I think that this is absolutely something you're onto. And I think anybody that's listening to this that wants to help sponsor we'll call it a tech recruiter con, doesn't even have to be cyber. It could be IT and cyber. Reach out to Joe Hudson, because you got your point man over here.
I appreciate you bringing it up, because that's something that has definitely been on the back burner of my brain the last few months as I get acclimated to this new position. But it was something that that's a passion project. That's all that is for me. Because I very, very, like, even though I'm not recruiting anymore, I'm incredibly passionate about recruiting in general, because it is inherently transactional. Yeah. But when you take a step back and you look at what is this, look where I am today. It's because I contacted Heath Adams 6+ years ago. It changes lives. I mean, recruiting, you don't know who I am. You don't know about the job that I'm calling you about 5 minutes ago. And all of a sudden, this stranger walks into your life and now has you going home and talking to your husband or your wife or your dog or whatever it is about this prospect that was not on your radar when you woke up this morning. You start to picture yourself in it. You start to plan, study, prep for interviews. And now you're considering taking an offer. And it's like, how did that happen? The recruiter randomly presented that. That is such a ridiculously massive responsibility and privilege. And it's not treated as such. And I think that there are people out there that actually do love that. There are other recruiters I know that really value that opportunity. And you get around a bunch of them, you find a bunch that are really kind of paving the way for doing things the right way. And other recruiters get to see that and they go, you know what? I want that. I
Yep.
actually would love to be that. I love this career. It's just my company is always looking at me when I'm on the phone for 15 minutes to get off. And you've got 49 more calls to make today and the margin to hit if you want to get your promotion. And that's the only measuring stick. It's crock of BS. We probably shouldn't
It's a
open this can
numbers
of
game.
worms. I'm so, I get
Yeah.
so fiery about this still. Every time. It gets me every time.
Oh, I no, I was tracking with you. That's so wow, that's super frustrating. And you and I could talk on any topic for hours. We did everybody listening, we did a workshop together. I think it was supposed to be an hour. It turned into 2. So Joe and I, yeah, we could go on for a while, but we are at the end. So I want to pass it to you and give you a moment to say final thoughts and how people could contact you or reach out to you if they want to be able to reach out to you.
Absolutely. First and foremost, the TCM Security, I'm very, very blessed and proud to be with these people. And this is a very welcoming group that you can ask questions, even if it's not about hacking or getting a certification. If you have any questions, period, about your journey with cybersecurity, literally everyone at my company is on limits, to contact, because there's a whole lot. I actually got a note about 10 minutes before you and I hopped on where she was told about a boot camp and she was going to go do this boot camp. And I said, just pump the brakes real quick. It may end up being a good choice for you, probably 95% unlikely based on your situation, but let's talk. And it could be that just note that you send to someone at TCM Security or really even any other firm, but for sure, anyone here that could save you $15,000 by sending the note. So you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm not really active. I'm definitely not active on Twitter. I can't take any more social medias. But LinkedIn has become that's like my sole hub for pretty much everything now. You can message me there. My email is jhudson@tcm-sec.com. Happy to share that. You guys can feel free to reach out to me there. Honestly, I'm on Discord here and there. My nickname is Hack Breacher on there. That's going to be my sidebar security hip hop name that I will be sharing coming up. But please reach out to anybody here, at the company. But we have a phenomenal set of services, phenomenal academy, and it's growing by the day. Our team is growing by the day. Just too stoked to talk about it, honestly, in a short amount of time. So. I'll get you all the socials and you can share them and
I will. Yeah, there'll be an episode notes for anybody listening. So awesome, Joe. Again, thank you so much for being a guest. We'll have to have you back when Erica can be here.
Thanks, Jax. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Yep. Oh, amazing, amazing. So I want to thank everybody for all of our listeners, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much. If you are listening on YouTube, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, hit subscribe, share this out with others. And if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't done so already, do a quick scroll down, hit the 5 stars because you love us. And also go ahead and share it out with others. And if you have any guests that you would like to recommend, I almost forgot this. Send us an email at the number 2 for 2 cyberchicks at gmail.com. We'd love to host you or anybody else you know. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Bye.